You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Banshee After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Banshee.
Hey there, Banshees. You know what time it is. It's the Banshee After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. We're talking about Season 2, Episode 5, The Truth About Unicorns. I am Matt Lieberman. Joining me, as always, of course, is the fabulous and talented Miss Oriana Leo.
Hello, everybody.
Yes. Unfortunately, Monis Rose not able to join us today. Still out of town, but he will be back next week. So happy to have him back. We have a very, very special guest today on the podcast, Greg Yaitanes, who is the showrunner and frequent director of Banshee. He was supposed to be here in the studio.
He was.
Unfortunately, there's some kind of weird
LA traffic monster
that is just ruining the city. Ensnared him, and he's going to be joining us on the phone. We're so happy to have him. Great to have someone of his caliber, of his talent, in here with us. We're going to grill him about the show Hardcore. What an amazing
episode. Total departure from what we've seen before.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this very intimate story, and I think it's one that like we needed to take a little break, a little breath from all the action and the blood and everything, and really get into the heads of our two major protagonists.
I totally agree.
And oh man,
there was still blood and boobies though.
That's true.
I would like to, and action, but boy did we get to dig into their characters and their relationship,
right,
and the subtleties,
right. And what the biggest thing that we saw is this change in Lucas,
yes,
and sort of cementing why he has to stay in Banshee, why the show will continue, why he can't leave, and really having him analyze his own reasons for being there and everything like that. And we have Greg on the phone. Greg, are you with us?
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
Hey,
hi,
man.
Welcome to the show.
Disaster driving today.
It's all right.
It's what happens when you live in LA. You take a gamble every time you get in the car.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was full zombie apocalypse. It was, I don't know what was going on, but like, it was just not happening.
Oh, man.
So. Well, we're so happy that you made it on our podcast anyways.
I had stuff. I had swag.
You had full swag? Man. Oh, man. Well,
damn it.
We'll have to have you back at some time, and we'll swag it up, and we'll have a more formal chat.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Great.
Okay, great.
So this episode, we were just talking about how much we loved it. It's almost kind of like this little indie film, like set into the middle of this season, where we've just got this intimate story about two former criminals, former lovers, examining what their relationship could have been and why they can never go back. I just wanted to know, like, at what point in the pre-production and the season did you all sit down and say, okay, we need to have this breather here while we examine the motivations of these characters?
Well, the show goes back and forth at times. I mean, the origins are an example of how we are that is as much in the past as it is in the present, and that's really going to the fact that we want to tell this very broad story across 15 years with all its mythology. And one of the aspects of that has been, since the very first episode we shot, we shot out of sequence last year. We shot episode 4 as our pilot last year. And, when we introduced the idea of the locket, Jonathan and I had been talking about, wouldn't it be great to see Lucas go to the house someday and to see what it's like, and it's overgrown, and it's been like out of some, Tarkovsky film, where it's like got holes in the ceiling and it's wet on the floor. But then we had an opportunity to take it in a slightly more imaginative direction. But the idea, I actually didn't think we would go back to the house until season 3. But when the idea came out of the writer's room between seasons, it was a beautiful opportunity. And it was, again, a counterintuitive breather in the middle of the season to take the show. We constantly or organically trying to divert the story so people are as surprised about how they're watching as what they're watching.
Well, it's working.
Yeah.
I was definitely surprised in today's episode.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed watching the subtleties of the amazing actors, Ivana and Anthony, watching them play off one another, and the tension that, you know, as a viewer, I really want to watch them get back together. I want to see something happen.
Right, they're resisting touching each other for this whole episode. It's just barely.
And there's these fantasies that are playing out of having the embrace when she gets out of prison. That doesn't happen. And all of these fantasies of something happening that doesn't happen that they resist. That's almost torture.
And that's actually, you know, what you're picking up on was actually something that I actually brought this episode to USC a couple weeks ago and showed it to the students there, because it's an interesting standalone for Banshee if you've never seen the show. But one of the things I love that it actually wasn't scripted, but why I think, you know, we celebrate the directors that come on to Banshee is that we want people to come in with real vision. And Bobek came in, and it was funny because I was getting these like very odd phone calls from set, like Anthony's calling me and the writer's calling me, and I'm getting these phone calls like, you know, like they're hugging and they're doing things that aren't in the script. And I'm like, all right, we'll just, you know, give him some room and see where they go, because I think he's up to something. Like Bobek is an incredible artist, and he has a plan. And then when they came in together in the editing, and we've imagined, you know, whatever it is, if it's somebody's imagination, or if it's just kind of a general commentary on, you know, not, you know, these are the things that are in our head, but we refuse to ever act on them.
Sure.
But I just thought these kinds of poetic touches really elevated the story in a way that wasn't even on the page, even though it was a beautiful script. And I love that we can take those chances.
There was a lot of non-scripted moments that I think elevated the storyline as far as the score, the cinematography. I mean, there was the lighting. There were so many things about this episode that enhanced the storyline, I thought.
Well, those kind of things, really, thank you for noticing that. Like, the fact that, like, people get those details is
we get them.
The greatest reward.
I hope
you
the
know?
Banshees
like,
get them, too.
Seeing that be appreciated. Because it is, you know, these things don't happen in a vacuum, because there is conversation. It's like, okay, well, let's find a town that's like Banshee but not Banshee. Let's color the episode differently than we color Banshee when they're out of Banshee. How can we shoot this episode differently? Like, what can we say about it? So we, you know, cinematically, I'd say that, like, if Michael Mann and Terrence Malick had a kid and that kid made Banshee, that was that episode Friday night.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's this beautiful, quiet poetry to the way that it's put together, and you know, sort of the warmth of this house and of this other town. And then once we're back in Banshee, it's close up on the beat up truck, and, you know, it's just dark and spare.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of my favorite shots that I'm very curious what your take on it is Carrie comes back to the motel, and she sits down, and it's after we had, you know, sort of the door close, and we realize, you know, Lucas is stuck in Banshee permanently. He has decided, instead of being he no longer considers himself the cause of this rabbit problem. It's, you know, it's not rabbit is coming because of me. Rabbit is coming with or without me, and I need to protect the people I care about, even if I can't have them myself.
Right.
And, you know, Carrie sits down, and then the light comes on above her, and it's almost like this weird, like, come to Jesus halo moment of just like, is sort of like this angelic imagery. And I'm kind of wondering, is this like in Lucas's brain kind of elevating this woman as, you know, I'm going to protect her even if I can't have her? It was just this very, very wonderful moment that's like sticking with me. I can't quite place it.
It's funny, there was a lot of conversation about how to actually achieve what Bobek was going for in terms, you know, we attempted to use a camera that would be shooting in such super slow motion that the actual light bulb, you know, would come on, and it's, you know, we would flick the switch, but it'd be going at 1,000 frames a second or something that would make it get that effect. In the end, we had to just put it on a dimmer and bring it up slowly and still shoot it in slow motion. And intent-wise, like, from my best understanding, was really just a certain acceptance. You know, it was more of a subjective moment for Carrie than it was something out of Lucas. But, you know, Bobek works very emotionally, and I don't dig in this process a lot. When you see the footage coming back, it's like a guy pitching a no-hitter. Like, you don't want to talk to him too much. You just want to you don't want to mess up whatever is going on in the poetry of what's going on, because it was so specific and so different.
Yeah.
And the great thing is that we can have this kind of conversation about what these things mean, and that we took a show that people, I think, often just dismiss as genre, and really show that our actors are great, our writing is great, and there's a team of people that are filmmakers trying to entertain you every week. No matter how we frame it, it's like we're just as capable as this. And when I got the call today that Friday night's episode broke viewership records for Cinemax and for Banshee.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. When you go out of the box like that, and then people respond, and I was looking on Reddit and checking out the discussions, it's incredible to see people really debating and talking about all the things that were there, and things that you don't even think about as you're cutting it or making it or seeing it come together. And for you guys to single out like Chris Balloon's cinematography or Methodic Doubt's score, which is incredible. Sitting with Chris from Methodic Doubt, we're like, look, you have the room to give this a different sound than a normal Banshee episode, and he did an evolution of the Carrie Lucas love theme, when the house is burning, that just totally gets to me every time I see it.
I loved that scene that you were talking about with Carrie in the motel, and I saw it as this sort of resurrection. Like the music goes up, the light comes on, and there's this, I kind of read into it like she's having this moment of, she has to move on. She has to start over.
Well, you take the parallels of the shower in prison and then the shower washing it all away.
Exactly, like starting over.
Yeah.
The freezing shower in prison, and then
the warm, more comfortable.
The cleansing of this experience, and the fact that they divert. I mean, look, it has been controversial since we turned in the script. I mean, it is so meditative, and that came through on the page, and it came through in the cut, and it came through in the cuts. And we had lively discussions about the music and about the pace, and how would people react to this? And ultimately, I think one of the great things that Cinemax does. Carrie, I was talking to Carrie and Lucas today. He was like, it was great to see that people didn't like it, and at the same time, it was great to see so many people that were nourished by it. To know that our audience is smart, and that they'll go there if we take them there.
Nourished is a great word.
Is a great word.
I felt that way.
And it honestly, it makes me excited about the future of your show and the future of Cinemax as a brand, having the faith that the viewership won't abandon it if you try to do something different, if you try to do something a bit quieter. And I hope we see more episodes like this in the future. As much as I love all the action, and there was plenty of action in this episode.
Sure.
It was it was more about tension than about brutality. And this scene in the wheat field, I absolutely adored.
Yeah, the wheat field is incredible.
That was incredible.
I was being and watching the shooting of that, you knew how cool it was going to be. It's just, when you're looking at the monitor and it looks like an ant farm from above, with everybody trailing in. Now, of course, it's maddening to shoot in a wheat field because everybody's like, don't step on the wheat.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like that. That must have taken days to shoot. Because you've got those wheat trails.
Most stuff, we actually shot that episode very quickly. I mean, Bobak has a really unique way that he was photographing that, but it's, we don't, it's one of the things that I think works in our favor as a show is that we don't have a lot of time to shoot. So we work from our gut, or they work from our balls, and really try to we just have to go with our intuition on things and make choices, because you can't indulge it. You kind of get a shot and you have to make a choice, and you have to commit to it 100%. And in orchestration of a season, an episode like this is important, because you don't, as much as we can slam it out every week with the action and the genre elements and the drama, you want to be able to give people a breath, because then, when we come into this next run of 6, 7, 8, we get into this really big 3-part, back to Banshee storyline it's almost like a 3-part episode, over the next 3 weeks that people will take. With only 10 episodes, we wanted to really carve out a robust experience, so that by the time people get done with the season, they're going to be like, was that 15 episodes?
Yeah.
I watch all that, because there's a tremendous amount of story that we cover. And
well, you're doing an interesting variety of you're doing an interesting variety of stories, because you have this two-part almost procedural episode followed by this very quiet meditative episode, and now we've got this kind of big three-part arc that's setting up, you know, your final 2 episodes of the season. It's rare that I see a show, you know, this young, you know, 2 seasons in, really playing with its formula and to such interesting and varied results.
Well, you know, now that I actually just read the first episode of season 3 this weekend. Jonathan sent it. And,
oh man,
what did you think?
You know, one of the thing that Jonathan and I talk about a lot is that we want to go at every season like it's our last and put it all out on the table and be fearless about it, because, like, who cares? Like, we know that those 10 episodes are going to be on Cinemax. Like, so let's take those chances and let's use this as an opportunity. And if people don't like it, then they didn't like it. But we're going to fail. We're going to fail interesting.
So when did you all find out that you had gotten a 3rd season? Because the news only broke, I believe, in the last 2 weeks.
Cinemax has a tremendous amount of confidence in Banshee and where it's going, and so, you know, we don't want to be caught off guard. So while we didn't get officially picked up until everybody heard the news, you know, we're working behind the scenes to hire the writers, break the season, make sure that we're like, so when it happens, we can pull the trigger. If it didn't happen, then, you know, the losses are minimal, but the losses would be far greater if we were, like, starting from scratch, you know, right now, getting ready to start shooting in April again. So the same thing we did last year. We had, and I part of it is, you know, I'm protective of the process, and I want us to get back in a room working on what the next season is about before the season airs. So it's not, like, muddied up by, you know, like, we were very careful with Joe, you know, both Hoon and myself and Jonathan, you know, it's like we didn't want to get into, like, people love Job, let's make it the Job show. We didn't want to do anything like that would potentially backfire. We wanted to really protect the integrity of things. So, you know, we worked out those arcs so we wouldn't be influenced by what the comings of the season are.
Sure.
I think it's time that we get into our actual episode.
Yeah, well, I feel like we're talking a bit about it, but I have one big question. You know, at the top of this season, you bring in a great actor like Zeljko Ivanek, who unfortunately is no longer with us. And, like, you know, when you get an actor of that caliber, I just assumed he'd be around all season long. And I think a lot of us were shocked to see him go in this episode. What prompted that decision? I mean, we saw him kind of, like, walking around the fringes of things. We met the priest through him, and I'm like, okay, where are we going to get that connection back? What went into that decision?
Being Agent Racine.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Agent Racine, I mean, you know, again, like, organically trying to keep him in the story. He came in, and one of the things I love is that we continue to surprise in how we tell it. Like, it's not everything. I don't want Banshee to be a safe place and people watch. It should feel like that kind of show that, like, anybody can go at any time. And, you know, especially by the time you get to the finale, you will be thinking, like, it'll be like the tension of 9 and 10 are going to be pretty intense.
My money's on Jason Hood getting clipped.
For sure.
The thing is that, you know, and so when people get surprised, like, oh my God, there's this amazing character. And yes, and just about every other show out there would have mined that and beaten it into the ground until no end. And we had conversations, but then we saw this opportunity that was organic, and it doesn't have a happy ending. Like, it was not that showdown and that confrontation, and Racine was there and justice was served. It's like, it doesn't always work out. I mean, Banshee is a messy place, and that's again something that makes us different. And, you know, it's not doing it to be different for different sake. That's where the story organically went, and we embraced it instead of doing it. Cinemax was shocked in the script reading when they got to it. No one saw it coming, and you know, we want to embrace that. There's value in exactly the reaction you're having. And, you know, for people that really want to go back and see Racine, they can go back in and indulge the Banshee origins where he's heavily present, and, you know, and you never know. You know, Banshee's the kind of show
you never know.
Somebody.
Totally. Greg, I just want to take a quick second and talk to our listeners about iTunes. Folks, thank you so much for downloading this podcast, streaming it on any of your devices. It's kind of a big deal. We live in a wonderful world, an amazing time where we can download and enjoy our media wherever we want to go. We do this show because we love Banshee. We get incredible guests like Greg, like Trieste, like a whole bunch of other people who hopefully will be doing the show this season, because we want to give you the best Banshee experience you can possibly have. So what can you do for us if you're so inclined to, help keep the proverbial gravy train a-rolling? I'll tell you. Doesn't cost any money. It only takes a little bit of time. You go to iTunes, you slap the show with a rating. We like 5-star ratings.
5 stars.
And give us, a comment. Let us know how you feel about our show, about Banshee, questions that need to be asked, rumors that you've heard, anything that you want to talk about. We read it. I'm kind of obsessed with it.
He is.
It's true. I can't stop reading. So please reach out to us. It really helps. It keeps the show searchable. We want to be the #1 Banshee show on the web. We want to be the #1 show on AfterBuzz TV. We want more people to be watching Banshee. I think that's what we all want. So go to iTunes, make it happen. We love you. Enjoy. All right.
Thank you.
That's the end of my pimping, of my self-pimp.
I like it.
You like it? Do you like the self-pimp, Greg?
I'm down. I shamelessly pimp all day long. You see my Twitter feed. I'm pimping Banshee all day long.
As you should.
Year round. You cannot stop.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about this scene with Sugar at the end of the show. I know we're kind of bouncing around, but I love this moment between the two of them. We haven't had a ton of quiet moments between the two of them this season, and Sugar has this amazing monologue about, sort of the prisons that we're put in and the prisons that we build ourselves. And I think that it's a really nice metaphor for what's being explored in this episode, namely that Lucas was ready to leave, and in having concern for Carrie, for Deva, for the rest of this family, as we kind of see a little bit, or at least I infer from that post-credit scene where he's training, he's got the photo of her family under his bed, he's going to be protecting her, and this love is this prison. I don't know. What did you think, Oriana? Am I off base here?
No, I completely agree, and that the sense that he's done it to himself. But the way that Sugar was referring to it is kind of like there are ghosts that just won't let us be people like us. But also while he's saying that voiceover, it pans to Carrie, and that perhaps Carrie is just like them. That was kind of what I was picking up, was that they may be 3 of a kind. There may be 4 with Job. That there are people like them, that the ghosts of their past, the things that they have done, have left an indelible mark on their lives. And it doesn't, that you can't undo it, and you cannot change. You can run, you can hide, you can avenge, you can do all of these things.
But the violence will return.
Yeah.
And that's what Rabbit, represents.
Absolutely. And
I think you'll see that next week too. You'll see it come in full steam. I mean, we take the essence of that monologue and bring it into the foreground of next week's episode, in terms of what's bristling under there. But when you guys see next week, you'll understand that.
Ooh, I know.
It didn't go unheard by Lucas.
Okay,
I had a question. We saw that countdown of 20 before this episode. Was that like a preview for the rest of the season?
Or was that all from this episode?
No, there's images taken throughout the season, because we shoot, and all of Banshee is in the can back in September, so we're going through editing and some post-production, but people should look carefully at those images and decipher them as they wish.
There's a really deep experience that I feel like you're building for Banshee fans, whether it's in the imagery, in the opening title sequence that's always different and kind of is very, predictive of what's about to come. And then there's also this whole numerology thing that I started exploring on the website. And I've always been obsessed with the dial at the very, very top of the show, because I don't think it was 62 last season. Am I wrong?
No, we changed the combination this year. We added a number.
Yeah.
And those, and on all the numbers were significant last year as well. In fact, we had a great YouTube video that really got a ton of engagement, which revealed what the combination meant at the end of last season.
Sick!
So,
I totally have to watch this. Okay.
I'm sorry, what?
No, I'm just like, that's awesome. I need to watch this.
It's out there on Cinemax's thing. I could probably find it. I'll find the link. But it is what the combination meant. Like people were like, people were it was interesting because we didn't tell people that they had significance last year, and people really took to Twitter and started wondering, like, what did the numbers of last year mean, and what were they referring to? And some people instantly got it. Some people took the whole season to get it because they didn't know. You really need to see the whole season and be like a deep diving crazy fan. But this year, the numerology is throughout the season, and have multiple meanings and tag into things. So I'm just we don't want to leave. We all day long. We have to put prices of gas stations and numbers on things and hotel room numbers. And,
so what drives?
So we've woven that into the numbers that we pick in the safe dial.
What drives you to include this kind of like this deeper fan experience? You don't really see it very often, and most people wouldn't even notice it.
Well, that's the hope, is that that if you really the idea is that if you love this show, we wanted, from go. I really, I've worked in broadcast television, really all my career until Banshee. And there isn't the appetite. There's this thing that, like, well, if it's successful, maybe we'll do something. And then people kind of get in these ruts. And at our DNA, I wanted to try out everything that we could possibly try out and experiment with. Like, coming into the fact that we've got a 80-second title sequence, that's a ton of time to tell story. That's why we change the imagery every week. That there's 10 micro stories as well as an overall arc. There's all of that. But the numerology was just another layer to give people that would go there. So it's not a random dial, but if you're paying attention and you love the show as a fan, you get to submerge and go there, and that we have something waiting for you. And it's also by us. It's not like pawned off to a department and we throw it away. All our content everywhere is like right down to like, our title house and Jonathan speak to each other on a regular basis, so that we're getting into story and psychology of the story. That's why Welcome to Banshee, if people click on the title sequence, you can get at the hidden meaning behind every image that you're seeing in the title sequence. So we wanted somebody to be able to go and go and go and go and go, and as deep as they went, I wanted to have something there for them.
That's so awesome.
I have a couple questions in this episode between Carrie and Lucas. Specifically, when Lucas is having his dream and he's kind of remembering her. I'm wondering, was it a memory of her being pregnant, or was
no? It was an imagining.
It was an imagining.
It was. I think that's the thing that really comes out in the title.
It was kind of his fantasy of them being in the house.
If they had both gotten away.
If they had both gotten away. But he's awoken after she pulls the trigger in his face.
Right.
And that astonished me to think that, where is that coming from?
Well, if I know you're about to answer, Greg, but I want to make a guess, and I want to see if I'm right, if that's okay. I took it as when she betrayed him last season and was ready to turn him over to Rabbit. And that's kind of like, that's the death of that. The thought that could ever actually happen, that they could, actually run away and still have this happiness, it's not going to happen.
Like, nip it in the bud, she's betrayed you multiple times.
Yeah, and just, she is not Anna anymore, she's Carrie.
She's Carrie. Greg, what's your take on that?
My take is similar to what you're saying. I think it comes from a place of not fully knowing where Carrie's allegiance would ultimately be and where her loyalty would always be. That as much as he can dream and want for these things, there is the reality that it could change on a dime, and it has. It was obviously a very complex relationship season 1, and it's equally complex in season 2.
And another thing that I noticed too was that when they're in the wheat field and they've got their Desert Storm assassin, who was quite impressive, Carrie takes her out and doesn't even bat an eyelash afterwards, which I thought was very reminiscent of Anna, of what we've seen of Anna. And Lucas just, he comes unhinged. You can kind of see him. He's already decided no more deaths, no more violence. He doesn't want to participate in this anymore, but he still has to stab this woman in the throat to kill her. And just the kind of look on his face and this feeling of
Just a deep sadness.
Deep sadness, and also of just kind of failure. Like, his plan isn't going to work out. This universe is out to get them.
Yeah, the violence is inevitable. Rabbit is inevitable. It doesn't matter where you go or where you hide or what you change your name to. You know, if you leave any loose ends, he will come after them, and he will come after you.
And I think we saw... I don't know. I feel like watching Carrie's, unraveling in prison was her accepting some of that, as well as the loss of her family, as she knew it. But there was a real contrast between the two characters in that scene, and it made Lucas seem quite fragile compared to her.
Yeah, I mean,
well, that's a good interpretation of it.
Yeah,
very good.
I feel like she took her quiet time in prison to kind of make peace with a lot of it. And he still hadn't. He's
just tortured, and she seemed okay with just, busting a cap. Is what I was like, whoa, why?
I mean, Anthony brings that to the show, and Lucas wasn't conceived as being such an emotional character. And when we shot the first episode, in fact, it's funny because that's what the iconic "Just Breathe" of season 1 was actually born out of an accident that happened on set, because we had shot. In episode 4, which we had shot as the pilot, we shot the scene of her in the backyard, like on the first day of her, when Lucas gets trapped in the museum hallway and calls her. We shot that side of things first, and then we shot Lucas. But one of the things that Ant did was have this full panic attack when he got trapped again, and it took him back to prison and all that kind of stuff. Like that was what was coming out, and then when we saw that, we grabbed onto it, and then we added dialogue on Carrie's side, and then added these prison flashbacks to get inside his head, and then it became this great thing that took place. And so now that we know that Ant is so capable of that and brings that to Lucas, we write into that and play that. And that moment was I remember I got calls from set about that moment, about how great it was, and it was all anybody could talk about, because it was such an incredible piece of performance.
Yeah, no, I loved that whole sequence, and he's just going full wild animal. And then suddenly is just so scared, and just kind of you see the inner child come out, and then having her comfort him. It was just a beautiful sequence.
Well, even the look on his face when he's telling her no more.
Yeah.
There's this fire in his eyes that's different than this. He's finally taking responsibility for everything he's done. And, Job has a big part in that when he says, bad things happen to people that you are too close to. You need to get that into your head. And I feel like he's finally feeling the gravity of that.
Those are sage words of Job.
Yes. I mean, everything that comes out of Job's mouth seems to be important.
Yeah.
Important, or at least a hell of a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yes.
Greg, I'd like to ask you, how do you decide on who your guest directors are going to be and for which episodes?
Yeah, how are you discovering some of these, European artists? And I know O.C. Madsen, who did the two-parter 3 and 4,
which were incredible.
Yeah.
And he was with us last year. I have a great dialogue with Scott Nemes at Cinemax, who really keeps his eye on what's coming overseas in terms of films and up and coming directors. And one of the things we realized is that we tried a wide variety of directors in season 1. I would say our least successful outings seemed to be people that were coming in that have a lot of television experience. I think that directors in television can come to the table very beaten down and unwilling to really push their vision through. And being a director first, I wanted an environment that really brought the director's vision to the table. And so I started seeking out people that would come with point of view, because I wanted the show to evolve. My nightmare, and I've been on shows that do it, is we have our thing that we do, and I think that's the kiss of death for any series. If it's unwilling to grow in depth with each story. So Scott and I started looking at directors overseas, because my initial concept reel I made in 2011, when I first met on Banshee, I put together a trailer of Banshee made out of other movies, and it had a lot of European influence in it when I put that together. And so I was gravitating to filmmakers that really understood some of the deeper themes of the show. So in the course of interviewing people like O.C. Madsen, who's making his Danish films kind of on the same schedule we make 2 episodes of Banshee, which is how we shoot. We shoot a 2-episode block.
Yeah.
So, I could do the math of that. So I was trying to find and create something, we call indie TV, where it's not like
that makes
TV
sense.
as you know it, and it's not independent filmmaking. So
I was
that's
just
how it came
thinking about
together.
this. I was just thinking
we're
about the scene.
successful sometimes, we're more successful other times, but this season, we've got O.C. Matson, who just finished his run. We have another episode from Bobik next week, which is terrific.
Oh, great.
Lonnie Paris-Spear, like people that haven't directed before.
Nice.
I was just saying, I was thinking about the scene with Rebecca running through the woods, and it reminded me a lot of...
Sorry, people haven't directed television
It
before,
reminded me of Run, Lola, Run, which was a fantastic foreign film from many years ago.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it just...
Tom Tykwer.
Yes, I love all of this varying cinematography and storytelling is amazing. When do you decide to direct an episode?
I'm sorry, what?
Greg, when do you decide to direct an episode?
Yeah, like you're giving out all these episodes to other people. You're show running the show, but you also want to direct. You directed a bunch of episodes last season. Are you directing any more this season?
Yeah, I directed. In fact, I probably directed too much because I directed the first two and I directed the last two, and the amount of work that puts on me. It was actually very enjoyable to direct the last two episodes. That first of all, they're fantastic scripts, but the great thing is that I could use what everybody was doing all season to evolve the show. So if you look at like my work in 9 and 10 and my work in 1 and 2, they're very different.
You're allowing other directors' work to influence your own style on the show.
Yeah, because we want like, oh, that worked, or this is good. These are things that the show can put in its vocabulary to use when you're directing. So we're not just a handheld show. We're not just episode 5 had stuff that was beautiful that worked. Episode 6, 3 and 4, like we get a sense of it all the way across. Every director brings something and leaves behind something that evolves the show. So that when you guys watch season 3, a year from now, it'll be an entirely new experience than season 1 or season 2.
Which is why we love it so
But picking
much.
the directors is very personal because there's only 5 slots for directors, and I did 2 this year, so that left 3 spots. So we are very particular about who comes into the fold because it's 20% of your season and trusted.
Right, absolutely. So I have to ask you, because it's something that's unorthodox and really fascinates me about how you approach your show. There aren't many director showrunners. How did you wind up coming into that role? I mean, I know Jonathan hadn't done a ton of TV before. Was that always your intent, or was that something that happened after the pilot?
No, this was, I had been producing. I had won the Emmy for House in 2008, and I came on as a producing director. And my role and responsibility on House in the last 4 years really kept evolving to where it was really, I've become what's called a non-writing showrunner, and I don't like that title because it puts at the foreground what I'm not doing versus what I'm doing.
Sure.
But I would have a collaboration with David Shore, and we would build on things from kind of a nuts and bolts standpoint. And I wanted to, leaving House, evolve that and find that marriage with a writer, where we're actively collaborating in terms of things. And I offer something in terms of story, episode 3 and 4 this year were a brainchild of mine, and I want to have a dialogue with someone that can appreciate that. And Jonathan was really that person. So, when they were in the first season, they had 6 scripts walking into production of Banshee, and they weren't as interested in getting somebody that was a traditional writing showrunner. They needed someone that could come in on a very tight budget and build the world and all the physical stuff around it, and be able to run with it and bring it in on a certain budget and schedule and so forth. And they've been tracking my work at House at the time, and HBO is a tough nut to crack. I mean, I took, I'm fortunate I get a lot of offers for pilots, but I had to go on like meeting after meeting after meeting with HBO to go. And I was like, I'm in. Like, I am, like, I'll take as many meetings as it takes. Like, they're not going to wear me down. And it was actually this concept reel I had made, this trailer of Banshee made out of other films that they, like, this pitch video that I made that really sold them, and they understood what was in my head and where I was going to take the show. Oddly, they hired me more for my producing, and I had to go kind of like repitch them to come in and direct, but they weren't sure what they wanted to do in that regard. It was kind of a twofold process.
Right.
We could change your title to Extra Awesome Showrunner instead of non-writing. I mean, it sounds like you just bring even more to the table.
Yeah.
Than someone maybe that would be a traditional showrunner.
Well, I have a tech background, in terms of another passion. I've been an early adopter of a lot of things.
You sure do. Actually, if our fans don't know, you are an angel investor for Twitter, Pinterest, and a new app called Jelly.
And Jelly, yeah. So it's trying to find ways to merge tech and television has been something, that I've been passionate about for a long time and trying to anticipate. And a lot of writing showrunners and a lot of writers in general and a lot of directors in general, a lot of people are trying to make those connections and pull those things together. So, I've tried to use them to create better fan experiences. And, I have an appetite for these things and being able to bring that to Jonathan's game, which is a big component. Like if Jonathan wasn't game and didn't go along with these crazy ideas that I sometimes throw at him, then we probably wouldn't get anywhere. But
sure.
He, of all people, wants the show to be relevant. And one of the real problems we had with Banshee, and it's always something that is in the foreground of my thinking, is that it was 2011 when I got the job for Banshee. Knowing that the first season was going to air in 2013, season 2 in 2014, 2015 for season 3, and so you want to imagine, you have to throw the football not where the guy is, but where he's going.
Right.
So
Imagine what's the landscape like in 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's what you're seeing with Banshee and what you're enjoying is where I feel things are going, and that people should be creating deeper, richer, multi-platform fan experiences for people.
Yeah. Well, we have to wrap up, but I want to ask one more question. It kind of goes off of this. In doing my research, you have this principle, and you're putting out a book on it called The One Olive, and it goes back to this story, American Airlines, by removing one olive from its in-flight meals, it saved $40,000, and it's the name of your production company. And I feel like this, use every part of the animal, build as deep an experience as possible approach. I feel like it kind of all goes back to that idea of let's use our money and our resources to build the best possible thing and strip away anything we don't need.
The fan is always at our foreground of our thinking. It is, when we make these decisions and try to put every dime on screen, it's not to save it to give it back to the studio. It is to put it on screen for the fan and to have people give me their Friday nights, in record numbers now. So I feel that we owe them the best Friday night we can possibly give them. And the One Olive is a good branded way of thinking that allows the crew down to its, from top to bottom on the crew to empower them to be their own producers and to make choices and decisions that are going to result in tangible things on screen to the fan. The more I can give them, the richer the show, the better the experience, and ultimately, the longer the show stays on the air. You almost can't live without it. I hate waste.
We can't live without Banshee.
Constantly.
We can't live without Banshee, Greg, and we would love to have you on so we can ask you even more questions. Would you come back again?
Yes, for sure. I think we're talking about coming back after the finale because I can't wait for people to see the finale. As much as I enjoy this time, it's the reward for all the hard work of last year.
Yeah.
I can't wait until people see episode 10 because, it'll blow people's minds.
Well, we can't wait, and we would love to have you back. Where can the people find you on Twitter?
I'm at Greg Yaitanes, at GREGYITANES on Twitter. And that's actually a good hub because I post a lot of good reviews and interesting fan feedback, and it's a good place for all things Banshee. And, of course, at Cinemax is another great place in terms of people following what's going on with the show.
Great.
But you guys are great, and I love that you guys geek out about the show for an hour a week. And now I can get up tomorrow morning, I can watch myself and listen to myself all.
Awesome. Well, Greg, thank you so much. Now, we're wrapping up, and I know you've got to go, but I have to ask, can you tell us one thing about next week? We've got, whoever was following, Jason Hood is coming to town. A lot of badness is happening. Can you tell us anything to look forward to?
I think anybody that likes Burton with the bow tie is
Mr. Burton
in for a great treat next week.
I'm so excited. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Greg, for joining us. We can't wait. We hope we can have you back after the finale. Oriana, where can the people find you?
People can find me on Twitter at Miss Oriana Leo or Instagram at Oriana Leo and Facebook and all those other places. Just search me. Oriana Leo, and also Killer Women After Show.
Killer Women After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. All right. Well, you can also find Monis Rose. He's not here, but he will be here next week. You can find him on Twitter at RestFiction, RestFiction. And you can find me on Twitter at Matt Lieberman. That's MattLieberman. You can also find me here on AfterBuzz TV all over the place. You can find me on Almost Human, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What do we got talking about? We're on the Cougar Town, Justified.
You're on Helix.
Helix, which is an amazing show on Sci-Fi. It's getting really good. If you haven't checked it out, we're only 6 episodes in. You can still jump in and not be too lost. What else we got? Lost Girl on Sci-Fi, Canadian show. It's wacky. And Sherlock. We're coming back. We're recapping seasons 1 and 2. We just finished season 3, and we're coming back. We're doing the rest of it because people are enjoying it. We're having a great experience over there. You should totally join us. And if you're in LA and you like live comedy, here's the deal. Come see me do some live sketch comedy at the I.O. West Comedy Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, 6366 Hollywood Boulevard, as a member of DJ Fawcett. The next big show we're doing is March 9th, Sunday, March 9th at 9 p.m.
Be there,
yes.
or be square.
Be square. I would just want to thank all the fans out there, all the Fanshies for joining us. Thank you to Greg Yaitanes and to our wonderful producing staff here, Marissa Serafini, our amazing engineer. Thank you all so much. We will see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Fanshies rule!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.